She almost didn't reply. She was sitting in her car on her lunch break, exhausted, shoes off, eating a sandwich she made at home because she couldn't afford the café fee next door, and her phone buzzed with a message from a message number she had never seen before. Most people would have ignored it. Most people would have assumed it was spam, locked their screen, and gone back to their sandwich. But something made her read it, and what she read was this: "Cancel my 3 p.m. I cannot do people today. Push everything to Thursday." She stared at that message for a long moment. Then, because she was exactly the kind of woman who says the thing that most people only think, she typed back, "Honestly, same also, who is this?" No. Here is what she did not know in that moment. She did not know that the man who sent that message was sitting in a boardroom on the 41st floor of a building she walked past every single day. She did not know that he had 4,000 people working for him, a private jet that hadn't moved in 6 months, and a net worth that would make the number feel like a typo. She did not know that he hadn't genuinely laughed in 2 years, that he hadn't felt anything real in 2 years, that the last person who made him feel like a human being instead of a machine was buried 26 months ago and he had never really recovered. She knew none of that. All she knew was that a stranger had texted her by mistake, and that his reply when it came made her smile. That was how it started, and nothing, for either of them, was ever the same again. Before we go any further, where are you watching this from right now? Drop your city and your country in the comments below. We read every single comment, every single one, and we would love to know where in the world this story is finding you tonight. And if you are, this story, not subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button right now, because we post stories exactly like this one regularly, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. No, let's get into it. His name was Lucas, 34 years old. The kind of man that rooms went quiet for when he walked in, not because he demanded it, not because he was loud or cruel or difficult, but because there I say, was something in the way he moved through the world that made everything around him feel like it had been arranged in advance. He ran a company that employed over 4,000 people across 3 countries. He had a penthouse apartment on the 52nd floor of a building in the heart of the city, with windows so tall and so wide that on clear mornings the sky looked like something painted specifically for him. He had a driver named Patrick who had worked for him for 6 years and learned very early on never to make small talk on Monday mornings. He had everything. He knew, in the specific and heavy way that only people who have everything and still feel hollow truly know, that having everything was not the same thing as having what mattered. 26 months before this story begins, his wife died. Her name was Claire. She was 31 years old when she left this world, and she was, by every measure that actually counts, extraordinary. No, in a grand or performative way. In the quiet, daily, irreplaceable way. She laughed too loudly at her own jokes before she even finished telling them. She burned every single thing she tried to cook, and refused to acknowledge this as a pattern, a habit of leaving her shoes in the exact spot where Lucas would trip over them in the dark, and when he pointed this out, she would look at the shoes and then look at him with an expression of complete innocence, as though the shoes had placed themselves there independently of her. He had loved her the way you love something that you cannot imagine the shape of your life without, completely, quietly, permanently. When she died, a cardiac arrest, sudden, senseless, on a Tuesday morning, when she was drinking her coffee and reading something on her phone and then simply gone, he did not fall apart the way people expected. He went still, like a clock that had stopped, but was still showing the right time twice a day. He functioned. He showed up. He ran his company and attended his meetings and answered his emails and gave his interviews, and no one who worked with him could have pointed to a single visible moment where he cracked. But there was nothing behind it. That was the thing no one could see. He had gotten so precise at performing okayness that he had started to lose the feeling of what actual okayness was supposed to lose. Feel like he ate because the body required fuel. He slept because the body required rest. He spoke because business required communication. And somewhere in those 26 months, the real version of himself, the one that laughed without reason, the one that stayed in bed on rainy Sunday mornings just because he could, the one that sent ridiculous messages to his assistant just to make her roll her eyes, that version had gone very, very quiet. He missed Claire every single day. He also missed, though he had no language for it at the time himself. Her name was Maya, 27 years old. She worked at a place called Bella's Diner, the kind of place with laminated menus and a coffee machine that had been making a sound like a dying animal sound for 2 years and somehow kept going, and food that was simple and warm and honest in the way that the best food always is. She had been working there for 3 years. She was good at it in the way that only people who genuinely notice other people are good at service. She remembered things without being asked to. She knew that the elderly man at table 3 took his coffee with 2 sugars on bow end, weekdays and 3 on weekends because weekends were harder. She knew that the young woman who came in every Thursday at noon was not reading the book in front of her. She was hiding behind it. She knew these things because she paid attention, because people, to Maya, were never background noise. She was also, at the time this story begins, working her way through a part-time psychology degree at a pace she described to her best friend Chloe as glacial but non-negotiable. She could not afford to go full-time, so she worked the morning and afternoon shifts, studied in the evenings at her kitchen table with a cup of tea going cold beside her textbook, and allowed herself exactly one real luxury each week, a movie theater ticket, a lone back row, largest popcorn they sold. Her apartment was small, 1 bedroom, good natural light, books on every available surface and a single plant on the windowsill that she had kept alive for 8 months and was privately more proud of than almost anything else in her life. She had lost her father when she was 19, a loss she had carried ever since, not dramatically, not loudly, but the way you carry something that has simply become part of the architecture of who you are. It had made her quieter in some ways, more perceptive in others. It had made her exceptionally good at sitting with people in their pain without immediately trying to fix it or redirect it or wrap it up in something more comfortable. She was, in almost every external way, the opposite of Lucas. And on a Tuesday afternoon, she was sitting in her car eating a turkey sandwich she had made at home, and her phone buzzed with a message from a number she had never seen before. It was 12:14 in the afternoon. Lucas was in his 3rd meeting of the day, and every minute of it felt like something being slowly extracted from him. His communications director was presenting a quarterly review that Lucas had already read 2 days ago and already formed clear opinions about, and which was going to take 45 minutes when it could have been an email. Stepped out into the corridor on the pretense of taking a call, pulled up what he believed to be his assistant, Diane's contact, typed quickly without looking down, "Cancel my 3 p.m. I cannot do people today, push everything to Thursday." He hit send, walked back into the room. Saturday down, resumed the meeting. What he did not do, what he would think about many times in the weeks that followed, with an emotion that lived somewhere between disbelief and the deepest gratitude, was check which contact he had actually selected before hitting send, because it was not Diane. Maya read the message twice. She looked around the car as though perhaps this was a prank, and someone nearby was watching. There was no one watching. It was just her and her sandwich and a message from an unknown number that read, "Cancel my 3 p.m. I cannot do people today. Push everything to Thursday." She thought about it for a moment. The thing was, she understood that message. She understood it in her bones. She had felt that exact feeling that very morning when her alarm went off, and she lay there for a full minute thinking about how extraordinary it would be if she could simply opt out of existing among other humans for just 1 day. She had not opted out. She had gotten up, made her sandwich, done her shift, but she had understood the feeling, so she typed back, honestly same. Also, "Who is this?" She put the phone down, took a bite of her sandwich, fully expected silence. Her phone buzzed. Lucas was mid-sentence about projected 4th quarter margins, when his phone lit up on the glass table in front of him. He glanced down, read the message. Something happened on his face. Something happened on his face, involuntary and small, a movement at the corner of his mouth that his colleague to the left had genuinely never witnessed in 18 months of working alongside him. He cleared his throat, looked back up at the room, said, "Where were we?" And then under the table his thumb was already moving. He typed, "Wrong number. Sorry to bother you." He put the phone face down, continued the meeting. 30 seconds passed, 45. He turned the phone over. The message read, "Don't apologize. Cancelling your 3 p.m. sounds like the most reasonable decision anyone made today. Good call." Someone at the table said his name. He didn't hear them. He was already typing. "You cancel things often," she replied. "I cancelled plans to go outside yesterday. It was a Tuesday. I regret nothing." He read that, put the phone in his jacket pocket, ended the meeting 11 minutes early, walked to his office, closed the door behind him, took out his phone. "What do you do instead?" he typed. "When you cancel, sit in my car," she replied. "Eat something, exist quietly you. I don't usually get to cancel. That sounds exhausting." He stared at his own next message for 3 full seconds before he sent it. "It is." He had not said that to anyone. No to his board, no to his therapist, whom he had stopped seeing over a year ago because the sessions had started to feel like another performance. No to Diane, who had worked beside him for 4 years and probably knew the shape of his days better than anyone alive. He had not once admitted to any person that it was exhausting, because admitting that felt like weakness, and weakness felt like a door he could not afford to open. He said it to a wrong number on a Tuesday without even planning to. Then his assistant knocked on the door and told him his 3 p.m. was still expecting him, and Lucas said cancel it. And Diane blinked slowly the way she did when she was deciding whether to ask a question, and then she nodded and left, and Lucas sat in his quiet office and waited for a stranger to text him back. "Good," she wrote. "Everyone deserves to cancel a Tuesday." He read that and smiled. No, the careful, measured, professionally warm expression he wore through his days, a real smile, small, private, completely unwitnessed, the kind of smile that lives on your face for just a moment before you even realize it arrived. He didn't know her name. He just knew he wasn't ready to stop texting her. They didn't exchange names right away. There was something almost deliberate in that, as though giving each other names would make the whole thing real in a way neither of them had agreed to yet. Was the wrong number. She was the person who replied, and for the first few days that was enough. She told him she was a waitress. He told her he worked in an office. She replied, "That is very vague." And he replied, "Yes, it is." And she laughed, not out loud, but in the way you laugh when you can tell someone is being deliberately evasive without quite lying, and she let it go. He noticed immediately that she let it go. He felt something ease in his pias because of it. 3 days after the first text, he was being driven home from a dinner he had not wanted to attend. A Michelin-starred restaurant he visited 4 times a year for professional reasons. The food was technically perfect and completely forgettable, and the conversation had been exactly the same conversation he had in that room every time, with different people saying the same things in the same things. Careful way. He texted her from the back seat, "Just finished a dinner. I didn't want to attend." She replied, "Was the food at least good?" "It was a Michelin star restaurant," he wrote. "That is not what I asked." He paused. Then, "No, it wasn't good. It was expensive and carefully arranged and completely forgettable." "See, that is the problem with expensive food," she wrote back. "It performs instead of feeds you. What did you actually want to eat tonight?" He leaned back against the leather seat and looked out at the city, moving past the window, and thought about that question more seriously than it probably deserved. Then he wrote, "Honestly, soup, something warm, from somewhere that doesn't care what I am wearing," she replied. "That is the most human thing you have said to me." "Is that a low bar?" he typed. "Little bit, yeah." He laughed, quietly alone in the back of a car that cost more than most people earned in several years. In the rear view mirror, his driver Patrick balanced back and back, and in 6 years of driving this man through this city, Patrick had never once heard that sound. Then came what would later become known, in the private history of the two of them, as the voice note incident. It was a Thursday afternoon. Lucas had a legal problem that needed his lawyer Richard's attention immediately. A contract clause in a deal 3 weeks from closing. Language on a specific page was dangerously ambiguous and needed to be addressed before the other party's team noticed it first. He pulled up his phone, pressed the voice note button on what he was certain was Richard's contact, and spoke for 45 seconds. Precise, fast, the specific tone of a man who is used to people writing down everything he says the first time he says it. Contract language. Renegotiation risk. Page 42. He hit send, put the phone down, went back to his desk. 30 seconds later his phone rang. It was Richard, calling to say he hadn't received anything. Lucas picked up his phone. He looked at who he had sent the voice note to. He looked at it for a long, still moment. It was not Richard. The voice note had been delivered. It had been listened to. He typed immediately. "Please delete that," she replied. "Huelmawuwu, who is Richard? Colitu. Please bleach, and what is the Hargrove deal?" "Maya, page 42, sir. I am sincerely begging you." Okay, deleted. But for the record, you sound very important when you panic. Also, you said Combs team. Is that a coincidence, or are you doing this on purpose because that is my last name? He put his phone face down on the desk, pressed both hands flat over his face. His shoulders were shaking. Diane walked in, took one look at him, and backed quietly out of the office and closed the door because in 4 years she had never seen anything remotely like it, and she did not know what to do with it. He typed back. "That is a coincidence," she replied. "Sure it is, Richard." 2 days later, she sent him a voice note by mistake. She was at the movies, alone, back row, large popcorn, her one weekly luxury. It was a romance. She had not expected it to hit her the way it did. The final scene played and the couple reunited after everything they had been through, and there was a slow walk in the rain and the music. Rose and Maya sat in the dark with tears sliding quietly down her face, and pulled out her phone, meaning to vault, sent her best friend Chloe a voice note. She pressed the wrong contact. In the recording, whispered unsteady, clearly mortified by herself, even as she recorded it, she said, "Chloe, oh my God, I am not okay. Why did they have to do the slow walk in the rain? I cannot handle this. My chest actually hurts. This is so embarrassing. I am in public." She sent it, waited. The reply came. "Are you okay?" She looked at the screen, looked at the name, looked back at the screen. "Oh no," she typed. "Oh number," he replied. "A slow walk in the rain. Please, I am asking you, with everything I have, please delete it." Deleted. "Are you all right though?" "I am fine, I am just, it was a movie. I true at movies. It is not a big deal." "What movie?" "Doesn't matter." It clearly does. The theater was empty now. The credits were rolling, and the lights were slowly coming back up, and she was alone in the back row, the only person left, sitting with her empty popcorn and her phone glowing in the returning light, and she typed, "It was just one of those stories where you can see them both trying so hard not to need each other, and then they just give in. And I don't know. Something about that got me." A long pause, then he replied, "I understand that you cry at movies too, no, but I understand trying not to need someone." She read that message, read it again, Saturday very still in the brightening theater, with that sentence on her screen. Then she wrote, "That might be the most honest thing you have ever said to me." He replied, "Don't tell anyone. Your secret is safe with me, wrong number." By the end of the 3rd week they had a rhythm. Neither of them had named it as such, but it was there, consistent and quiet, like something that had always existed and was only now being noticed. Good morning messages, check-ins through the day, not constant, not hovering. just present in the gentle way that someone is present when they are thinking about you without demanding anything from you in return. Late night conversations that went longer than either of them meant them to. He found himself doing things differently. He was eating lunch now, sitting down, away from his desk, actually tasting what was in front of him. He was leaving the office before 9 most evenings. On Saturday mornings he made his own coffee and sat with it at the kitchen counter and let the morning be slow before the day rushed in. His assistant Diane mentioned quietly to his CFO that she didn't know what had changed, but that Mr. Hale had been almost pleasant for 3 weeks running, and she was afraid to say anything about it, in case it stopped. One Saturday morning Maya texted to tell him the coffee machine at the diner had finally died. It had been making a sound like something in genuine physical distress every morning for 2 years. That day it had simply given up entirely. He asked what she would order if she could have anything. She told him a vanilla latte with oat milk and exactly 1.5 sugars from the Safeway on and Fifth that she walked past every single morning on her way to work and never once went into because $8 was $8, and $8 was also dinner. He put his own coffee down. He opened his laptop, found the cafe fee on Fifth, placed a delivery order to Bella's Diner, vanilla oat latte, oat milk, 1.5 sugars, her name on the cup, closed the laptop, picked his coffees back up. 20 minutes later she texted, "Okay, so the strangest thing just happened. A delivery guy just showed up at the diner with a coffee for me. From that place on Fifth, there is no name on the order. Just my name on the cup. That is strange," he replied. "Did you do this? How would I do that? I don't know where you work." He did. He had known for 2 weeks. She had mentioned the name of the diner in passing 3 weeks before, in the middle of a longer conversation, the way you mention things when you are not guarding yourself. He had remembered it the way he remembered everything she told him without trying to, without filing it away deliberately, simply because, when she spoke, he was actually listening. "Right," she wrote. "Huh, okay, well, someone out there is very kind. Enjoy your coffee. It is exactly 1.5 sugars. How does a stranger know that? Universe works in mysterious ways. You are being very calm about this. I am always calm. That is actually true. Why are you always calm?" He sat with that question. Outside his window the city was waking up, slow and grey and enormous. He thought about it honestly then. "I've learned that panic doesn't change outcomes." She replied almost immediately, "That sounds like something someone says after something really hard happened to them." He put the phone down, looked out at the city. Thought about the morning he got the call about Claire, about standing in a hospital corridor in the clothes he had put on at 6 that morning, when the world was still ordinary, being told in careful clinical language that his wife's heart had stopped, and that everything they had done had not been enough, about how still he had gone, about how he too had nodded and thanked them and walked to the parking lot and sat in his car for 40 minutes without moving or calling anyone or making a single sound. He picked up his phone. "Something hard did happen," he typed. "A while ago. I am sorry," she replied. "You don't have to say anything else. I know. Thank you for not asking. I'll just sit here, drinking my mysteriously perfect coffee, if that is okay." "That is okay," they told each other, their first names on day 11. He told her Lucas. She told him Maya. He already knew her last name was Chen from the voice note incident. She didn't know his last name. She didn't ask, and he was grateful for that in a way that was great, hard to fully articulate even to himself. What she did not know, what he kept not telling her, day after day, in a silence that was not dishonest, but was becoming heavier the longer it continued, was that his full name was Lucas Hale. If she typed those 2 words into any search engine, she would find hundreds of articles, a Forbes profile, a Wikipedia entry, photographs from events and boardrooms and charity galas, and one photograph in particular, taken 2 years ago of him, standing beside a woman with dark eyes and a wide open laugh, who was no longer in this world. He told himself he would tell her. He just needed a little more time in this specific light. This light where she talked to him like he was simply a man, like his name carried no weight, beyond being a sound she used to get his attention, like what he carried was human scale rather than empire scale. He had not felt this weightless since, before Claire died. He was not ready to put the weight back on back who zi, fell lao li. 4 weeks in, he was in a meeting when his communications director spread a collection of photographs across the conference table for a magazine profile piece. Archive, photos, events, interviews. Several from a charity gala 2 years ago, including one of Lucas and Claire standing together, her head tilted slightly toward him. Both of them caught mid-laugh at something happening just outside the frame his director kept presenting. Lucas heard none of it. He excused himself. Stood in the corridor outside the conference room. It was 11 in the morning. He texted Maya. "Do you have a minute? 2 minutes passed. Then always. What is wrong? Nothing is wrong. I just needed to say something to someone real. I am here." He typed. Her name was Claire. She died 2 years ago, 26 months. She was 31 years old, and she laughed at everything, and she made every room warmer just by being in it. And I have a meeting in 4 minutes, and they are showing me photographs of her. And I don't know how to do this today. He sent it before he could think about it too carefully. Maya was on her break in the back of the diner. She read the message, read it again, stood very still for a moment with her hand pressed over her mouth. Then she wrote, "Lucas, I am so sorry. You don't have to go back in that room." "I do," he replied. "Okay then, here is what you do. You go back in, you get through the next 4 minutes, and then you cancel the rest of the day, and then you go somewhere quiet and you let yourself actually miss her. Not perform being okay, not manage it, just miss her. She sounds like she was wonderful. She was the best person I knew. Then she deserves to be missed out loud sometimes. No, just carried." He stood in the corridor with his phone and those words on the screen and his eyes very still. He pressed one hand flat against the wall, breathed, then he went back into the room, completed the room. Meeting in 4 minutes, cancelled everything else, and told Patrick to take him to the small park near his building, the one he and Claire used to walk through on Sunday mornings in the early years of their marriage before the company became what it became and the Sundays started disappearing. He sat on a bench. It was cold. He didn't mind. "I am in the park," he texted. "Good," she replied. "How does it feel?" "Like missing someone, but cleaner. Like I am actually doing it instead of just carrying it around." "Yay," she wrote. "That is the difference. How do you know these things? I lost my dad when I was 19. So he sat with that for a long, quiet moment. Then, "Maya, I am sorry. It is okay. He was a good man. I carry him too, but I've learned to put him down sometimes and just miss him properly. Just feel it all the way through instead of managing it. It helps more than anything else I've tried." He looked out at the park. A dog was running loose near the fountain. An older man was reading on a bench nearby with his collar turned up against the cold. The city continued, indifferent, enormous, around all of their private losses. He thought about this woman he had never met, this wrong number who had become, without either of them planning or engineering it, the most honest relationship in his life. She didn't want anything from him. She didn't need anything from him. She just talked to him like the version of himself he had almost forgotten existed. He knew he had to tell her who he was. He also knew that the moment he did, something would change. She would look back at the coffee and wonder. She would reread their conversations through a different lens. She would question things that didn't need to be questioned, and he would lose the specific quality of light that existed between them, this light where he was just Lucas, and she was just Maya, and the world was the size of a phone screen, and somehow that was enough. He wasn't ready. But he knew, with the quiet certainty of someone who has been avoiding the inevitable long enough to recognize it, that not ready and not ever were two very different things. 5 weeks in, it was late on a Friday and Maya had just locked up the diner. She stood outside on the empty sidewalk, pulling her coat closed against the cold. The street had gone to that specific late-night quiet where the city sounds very far away, and your own footsteps are the loudest thing. She texted, Lucas just finished long week. But good long, you know. I know, he replied. Are you heading home? Yeah, walking. It is only 10 minutes, it is late. I walk it every night, I am fine. I know you are fine. She watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Then, I know you are fine. She smiled at her phone in the dark. Were you about to say something else? No, you were. I was going to say I'd feel better knowing you got home safe. She stopped walking, right there in the middle of the empty sidewalk. A cab went past. She stood still. Text you when I am home, she wrote, if you want. She walked the rest of the way thinking about that exchange with something warm and careful sitting in the middle of her chest that she was deliberately not examining too closely, because examining it would require naming it, and naming it would make it real in a way she wasn't entirely sure she was ready for. She got home. She texted him, home. Plant is fine. I am fine. City is fine. He replied. Good. Then after a moment, you worry about me, she wrote. A little, he said. That is very sweet for a wrong number. You are not really a wrong number anymore. She sat with that. She was on her couch with her shoes off and the apartment quiet around her, and that sentence on her screen. No, she wrote. I guess I am not. Then, Lucas, can I ask you something? Yes. What are we doing? He stared at that question in his penthouse on the 52nd floor, with the city spread out below him, like something lit specifically for the occasion. He started typing, stopped, started again. Stopped. Then I am not sure. But I don't want to stop, me neither, she replied. Is that okay? Yes, it is more than okay. Okay. Good night, Lucas. Good night, Maya. He put the phone down and sat in the dark and thought about the truth he was carrying, and the right moment to put it down. He was parked at a gas station at 11:47 at night when he finally decided. He had left a work dinner early. He had been sitting across from a table of men talking about leverage and acquisition and market position, and he had looked at his phone under the table and seen Maya's name at the top of his messages and thought about her question, what are we doing? And his answer, I don't want to stop, and the thing he had not said that lived underneath all of it like a fault line. He had told Patrick to pull over. There was a gas station nearby. Rain was coming down in sheets against the roof of the car, loud and relentless. He sat in the back seat alone with the engine running and the wipers going, and opened his phone and typed for a long time without stopping. What he wrote was this: there is something I need to tell you. I am not who you think I am, or maybe I am exactly who you think I am, and that is the whole problem. Everything I have told you is true. I have not lied to you. I have not lied once. I just have not told you everything. My full name is Lucas Hale. I am the CEO of Hale Industries. I have a driver and a penthouse and a private jet that has been fueled and ready for 6 months for a vacation I keep not taking. My net worth is a number that would feel unreal if I said it out loud. I have 4,000 people who work for me and one assistant who has worked beside me for 4 years, and who I was supposed to be texting the day I texted you by mistake. I have spent 5 weeks being more myself with you than I have been with any person in 2 years. I was afraid to tell you because I knew what it would do. I knew you would look back at everything and measure it differently and question things that did not need to be questioned. So I need you to hear this before anything else. Every single word was real. Every conversation, every late night, every honest thing I said that surprised even me when I said it. All of it was real. I just needed one person in my life who did not know what I was worth to make me feel like I was worth something. And without knowing it, without trying, you did that every day. He read it back. The rain was deafening against the car. He sent it. Then he sat completely still and watched the screen and waited 1 minute, 2, 3. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again, disappeared. He closed his eyes. The rain kept coming. He was not a man who prayed, not formally, not phony, not with any particular language, tradition, but in the back of that car at that gas station, at 11:47 at night, he was asking for something with everything he had. Haya's phone rang. Her name on the screen. Shh. Is it true? She said. Her voice was quiet, no cold, careful, the way a person sounds when they are holding something fragile and do not want to drop it. "Yes," he said. Silence. Then, "All of it, the things you said, the coffee, all of it. All of it was real," he said. "I promise you, why didn't you tell me?" "Because you talked to me like I was just a person," he said. "And I could not remember the last time anyone did that. I didn't want to lose it." The silence that followed was the longest of his life. He could hear the rain on her end too. He could hear her breathing. He sat in the specific quality of waiting that is nothing like patience and nothing like calm, but is simply the body enduring the moment before it knows what it has to live with. "The things you said about Claire," she said finally. Her voice was very soft. "About the park. About some days not knowing how to do it. That was all real." The longest pause. Then she said, Okay. I said, "I need to think." I didn't say goodbye. She hung up. 2 days of silence. He did not text her. He had said everything he had to say. Whatever came next was hers to decide, and he knew that, and he respected it even as the silence sat on his chest, like something with weight. He went to work. He attended his meetings. He answered his emails. He made his own coffee on Saturday morning and sat with it and looked at his phone, and there was nothing, and he sat with the nothing, because it was what the situation required. On Saturday afternoon his phone buzzed. "I have a question," she wrote. "Ask," he replied, immediately. "The coffee from the place on 5th, 1½ sugars. That was you." "Yes." "How did you know where I worked? You mentioned the name of the diner once, 3 weeks before, in passing. You remembered that?" "I remember everything you tell me." A long pause, long enough that he set his phone down and picked it up again twice. "That is either really sweet or really a lot," she wrote. "Probably both." "Yeah, then nothing." He waited. Outside the window, the city was doing its Saturday things, unhurried and indifferent, and he sat with his cooling coffee and waited. "I am not good at big things," she wrote finally. "I live small on purpose. I like my life quiet. I like my plant and my back row movie seat and my 10-minute walk home. I don't want to be anyone's project or their charity or the interesting girl from the wrong side of something. I don't want to be a story someone tells." "You are not," he wrote. "You have never been any of those things to me. You are the only person I have spoken to in 2 years who made me forget to perform. Do you understand what that means? I don't manage with you. I don't strategize or calculate or present a version of myself that has been edited for the room. I just talk to you. That is the whole thing. That is all of it." She was sitting at her kitchen table when she read that. Her textbook open in front of her, unread. Her best friend Chloe across from her eating cereal and watching her with the patient expression of someone who has been waiting a long time for their friend to catch up with themselves. Maya's eyes filled slowly. "I just want to keep being the person you text when you can't do people today," she wrote. "You already are," he replied. "You have been since the very first message." She put the phone down, picked it back up. "I finish at 6 tomorrow," she wrote. "There is a soup place 2 blocks from the diner. Nothing fancy, they don't care what you are wearing." He read that message. He had a call with his legal team in 30 minutes. His communications director was waiting on a decision about the magazine piece. His CFO had sent 3 emails flagged urgent. "I'll be there at 6, he replied. "Don't send a car," she wrote. "Just come, just me, just you." He was there at 6:02. He had asked Patrick to drop him 3 blocks away. He stood outside the restaurant alone. Small, warm light in the window, handwritten menu on a chalkboard in the door, exactly as she had described it, and he looked like a man standing at the edge of something significant. He looked like a man who knew it and was going to step forward anyway. The door opened. She stepped out, still in her work clothes, her apron just taken off, her hair still pulled up from the shift. She stopped when she saw him. He stopped when he saw her, and they looked at each other, for the first time, the way you can only look at someone when you already know them, when the face is new, but the person behind it is not. She tilted her head slightly, something almost like a smile. "You came," she said. "I said I would." She looked at him carefully. no, at the coat or the watch or any of the external markers of the life he lived at him, at his face, at the look in his eyes that she recognized from every late-night conversation, every moment when he had said something honest and then gone very still, as though surprised by his own words. "You look like someone who hasn't had good soup in a long time," she said, something in his chest released, something that had been held for a very long time, quietly and at great cost, let go. "I haven't had a lot of good things in a long time," he said, quietly, honestly, without performing it. She held the door open. "Well," she said, "come in then." He walked in. The door swung closed behind them. Through the window, if anyone had been standing on that street looking in, and no one was, because that is the beautiful indifference of cities, you would have seen two people settle into a small table near the back. No phones out, no performance, no version of themselves prepared in advance for the other person's consumption. Just two people who had found each other in the most ordinary, improbable way. A mistyped message, a stranger who replied, weeks of words sent into the dark between them, sitting across from each other at last, in the same room, in a restaurant that didn't care what either of them was wearing or what either of them was worth. The city moved around them. Neither of them noticed. Outside the evening was coming in soft and grey, the kind of evening that arrives gently in the space between winter, finally releasing, and something warmer. Not quite here yet. People walked past on the sidewalk. Cars moved through the intersection. The world continued doing what the world always does, rushing forward, enormous and indifferent, around every private and tender thing happening. Inside it, but inside that small warm restaurant, it was quiet. He had texted the wrong number. She had replied. He had never told her who he was until the night in the rain at a gas station, when he finally did, when he typed everything true about himself and hit send before he could take it back. And she had shown up anyway. No, for the penthouse or the jet or the number that would feel like a typo. No, for any of it. For the man who couldn't do people on a Tuesday, for the man who wanted soup somewhere warm, that didn't care what he was wearing, for the man who had sat alone on a park bench and missed his wife and texted a stranger about it because she was the only person in his life who made the grief feel like arson, something human rather than something to be managed. For the man who had remembered 1.5 sugars 3 weeks after she mentioned it once, in passing because, when she talked he was actually listening, for the man who had been, for 5 weeks, just a name in her phone, and had never, not once in 2 years, felt more like himself till